Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Yomi. My name is Yomi. I will be attending Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design for their dual degree program in the fall, and I'm going to give you some tips for the college application process and some advice as well. So I'm just going to give you some general advice to begin with before I give you my list. So I would say the most important thing to do is to take challenging classes. Mostly your junior and senior year, you need to be taking challenging classes. And your senior year, colleges want to make sure that you're taking classes that are hard and you're not just taking PE for 5 or 6 periods of the day. Especially if you're going to be going to an elite university or a top tier university, these colleges are looking for things of that nature. So also try sports or clubs that you're interested in. If you want to do karate and your parents have the money or you have the money to pay for karate lessons, then do karate. If you want to join choir, do choir. If you want to join a sport, do a sport. And I know a lot of people don't have money to necessarily do these activities, which is fine. Colleges know that. And you could also write about that in your essay or in your extra essay where you have extra word count for the Common App. My last general tip is do not jeopardize your college application acceptance because you ended up goofing off the last semester of your senior year and you had senioritis and you didn't do any work, because a lot of seniors will do that. They won't do work their last semester or the last quarter and they'll end up flunking or getting F's. Some won't even graduate, and some will have some of their college acceptances revoked because the college can do that. College acceptances are conditional. You have to behave and you have to make sure that you're still getting good grades because the college can revoke your admission decision. So here's my list. Number 1 is social media. You want to make sure that what you're posting on social media is appropriate, because your college admissions officers may look at your social media or may do a Google search of you and try and get information on you, because sometimes they can't tell if you're lying or not, so they're going to go to your social media to see if you're telling the truth or not. So if your social media is not beneficial to your application, you may want to put it on private, or if it could hinder your application being successful, then you may want to put your stuff on private. And TikTok, I think TikTok is a huge thing because a lot of people want to post some type of suspicious, inappropriate content on TikTok and they think it's funny, but that can end up getting you in trouble and ruining your college admissions process. So you want to make sure that you're posting appropriate things on social media, and that what you don't want your college admissions officer to see, make sure that that's on private, or if you have controversial posts or stuff, you may want to archive those until your admissions process is over and until you're actually enrolled at the school you'll be going to. Number 2 is don't be cocky. This is so important. I know so many people who thought they were so smart, thought they were so intelligent. Everyone told them that they were a genius since they were a child, since they were in elementary school, and they had a big head and they applied to only like really, really good universities, and they didn't get accepted into a single one. And don't feel entitled. This is also my second tip. Don't feel entitled. You're not entitled to win a single scholarship. You're not entitled to get into any university, whether it has a 50% acceptance rate or a 95% acceptance rate. You don't deserve to get into any specific school. They don't owe you anything. Number 3, college versus university. Don't look at a college and think, oh, it's less prestigious or less important, or the education isn't going to be as good as a university. The only difference between a college and a university is the fact that colleges don't have graduate programs. Graduate school is what you'll go to after you do your bachelor's degree, which is the regular typical 4 years of school. So universities have undergraduate, the 4-year programs, and they have graduate programs, which is where you go back to school. So the only difference between colleges and universities is that colleges, they don't have those graduate programs. They only have the 4-year programs. So colleges like Middlebury College, Colby College, Davidson College, Amherst College, those are really good schools. And you want to, if you see a college, apply to it if it looks good to you. It doesn't matter that it just has the word college in it. It's not really going to affect you. Number 4, set up a Common App account early on. You want to get started with this process as early as possible. And I'm talking about before your senior year or during your senior year. I'm not talking about when you're a freshman in high school. Don't start your Common App that early, but you want to get a head start so you can see the writing prompts and so that you can start figuring out which activities you're going to put or fill out your general information so you're not stressing out your senior year doing your Common Application. Number 5, make a notebook with college information. This is what I did. I had a page for each college that I was interested in, and I had a certain formula. So for each college that I was applying to or looking into applying to, This also helped me determine whether or not I wanted to apply to a school, because if I didn't like what I had to offer, I wouldn't apply to it. I did research and I wrote down each of these things. The mascot, what state it was in, what country it was in, what city it was in, the majors that I wanted to apply to that they had, the languages that they had that I was interested in, because add to your list based off of what you're interested in. I'm interested in language learning, so that was something that was important to me. The language opportunities that they had, the study abroad programs that they had. I wrote down whether the school is politically conservative or whether they were liberal. I wrote down all of this information because it's important. The undergraduate population size, the average GPA of people who are accepted, the average SAT score of people who are accepted, the average ACT score of people who are accepted. And it's fine to not necessarily write the stats down of like ACT and SAT if you don't want to convince yourself that you're not good enough to apply to this school. So you don't have to write those things down, but just write down what's important to you about choosing a university. Because on your common application, you're going to get essays from some of the schools that you apply to. Like, they're going to make you write essays. Why do you want to apply to this school? Or they're going to ask you, what do you want to major in? And instead of having to go to the site where they have all the majors of the school and having to look through all of them again to see your top 4 choices of majors, you have it written in your notebook and you can go through that. Or when they ask you, why do you want to go to this school? You have it written in your notebook, all of the things you like about that school. So that really helps you. Number 4 is find your niche. A lot of people have niches. So they have one thing that their application revolves around, and you don't have to follow your niche 100%, but at least try and have one. So your essay and all your activities will revolve around, when I know this one girl on YouTube, she wanted to be like a marine biologist or like the ocean or something. So all of her activities had to do with the ocean or cleaning the beach or doing internships at marine biologist places or things of that nature. So finding a niche really helps you. My niche was the fact that I like to learn about cultures and learn languages. So it really helps you figure out which activities that you want to put down on your application. So I didn't follow my niche 100%. I added in other activities too because I wanted to seem well-rounded. So I added art activities or volunteer hours opportunities that didn't have to do with learning about cultures or language learning opportunities. So that's good too. Like, it's good to not follow the niche 100%. Number 7, decide which schools you'll apply to: early action, early decision, regular decision, and look at what the schools offer. Some schools are rolling admission, so you basically can apply until like the first day of class. So it just depends. Like, some of the schools that you really want to get into, you may want to apply early action. So I'm not going to explain what these things are. You're going to have to look this up and do your own research, but it's really important to know how you want to apply to these schools and to know the deadlines. So number 8 is know when applications are due, because you don't want to get caught with your pants down and opening your common application account the week after your application is due. Because I know some schools like University of Florida, their applications are due so early. Like, some schools, their applications are due in October or November, when most colleges, their applications are due in December or even January or even in like March. So that's something that can be really frustrating to find out that the application was already due. Number 9 is recommendation letters. I cannot stress this enough. Choose teachers who are intelligent, choose teachers who are well written, choose teachers who love you and who sing your praises. You don't want to have a teacher write a recommendation for you that did not like you. You don't have to have done well in their class, but you have to have tried really hard. Because there was a class that I didn't do well in high school, and it was actually the class that I did the worst in high school, but the teacher knew that I studied all the time. The teacher knew that I would come into lunch every day to get help for that class so that I could understand the material, even though I ended up not understanding it. So that just shows, like, the teacher what your character is, that you're trying. And if the teacher speaks really highly of you, it's a good idea to ask them to write a recommendation for you. But the main thing about college recommendation letters is the common application for each school. Each school will have a limit. Some schools will say, oh, recommendation letters are optional. Some schools will say you can submit 2 to 5. You have to submit at least 2 recommendation letters. Look, some schools may say you have to have from 3 to 7 recommendation letters. So if you need 3 recommendation letters but can't submit 7, request 7 from your teachers. If you only need 2 but can request 5, request 5 from your teachers, because you will have teachers that will not do the recommendation letters. You will keep on asking them about it. You will email them and they will not do it. Like, they'll just be irresponsible about it. Or some teachers, you'll just have to beg them. Like, they'll keep on forgetting, or they'll be busy, or they'll keep on forgetting about it all the time. So then you don't want to be caught with your pants down when the recommendation letter is due tomorrow and you need 3 recommendation letters, but you only requested 3 people and only 2 of the people did it, because that can mean you don't get accepted into the school because your application is incomplete. So also make sure that you're requesting recommendation letters from responsible adults, teachers, or coaches that are on top of their stuff. You don't want to do with people who are completely unorganized, who you know they're not going to do the letter anyways because they're just going to forget about it. Because it's very frustrating to have to hound your teachers down for recommendation letters. Number 10, don't only apply to really good schools. Apply to safety schools. Apply to schools that have over a 50% acceptance rate. A lot of people don't think about this. You need to apply to schools that have 50%, 60% acceptance rates, because you may think, oh, applying to a school with a 20% acceptance rate is a safety school for you. No, it's not, because there's no guarantee that you'll get in. And also for these schools that you're applying to as your safety schools that guarantee that you'll get in, there's no guarantee. But make sure that they're schools that you actually want to go to, because there are really smart people with 1400, 1500s in their SATs, and they get denied from almost every school that they apply to. So you never know if that will be you. So make sure that all the schools that you're applying to are schools that you actually want to go to, even your safety schools. Because if you have to end up going to one of your safety schools, you want to make sure that they're options that you like. So number 11, apply to schools that you don't think you'll get into. And I know that may seem like it doesn't make sense. One of the schools that I'll be attending, because I'll be attending 2 for a dual degree program, Brown University, I literally never thought that I would get in. I thought there was a 0% chance that I would get in, but obviously you know that some people get accepted, so you know that there still is a chance somewhere. I just didn't think that the chance would be for me. But the thing with me is I didn't apply to schools based off whether I thought I would get in. I applied to schools that I wanted to go to. So if you want to go to the school, apply to it. If you want to go to Harvard, apply to Harvard. It doesn't hurt. It really doesn't hurt. So apply to schools that you don't think you'll get into. There are so many schools that I kind of wish that I applied to, Stanford or just different, Oxford, because I thought I would never get into Oxford. But now that I think about it, I'm like, why didn't I apply? You never know. Number 12, write mini drafts of your college essay. It's so important to write drafts for your college essay, because I wrote maybe 3 or 4 drafts in the summer. Like, write them as early as possible in the summer before your senior year, or early on in your senior year. Your workload gets really, really busy, because it's really important that you have a lot of material to work through. Jot down different ideas, try out different prompts. You may try a prompt and decide that prompt isn't right for you because they're different common app essay prompts. You may like one of the other prompts. So just write mini drafts of your essay, and that's really important. Number 13, have intelligent people read your essay, and don't have too many people read your essay. Have people who are intelligent, who are really well written, English teachers, people who have like a lot of degrees, I don't know, family members who are really accomplished, because you don't want someone who's not that good at writing or not that good at reading to read your essay and them think that it's super amazing when it's really not that good and it's filled with grammatical errors. And also, you don't want too many people reading your essay, because you want your essay to feel like you. You want it to be like you wrote it. You don't want 50 people to revise your essay and then all of a sudden the essay doesn't look like it belongs to you. And another thing is, you want people who are close to you to read your essay, because you want it to make sure that the essay feels like it's you, that it's not like someone else wrote it, that it showcases your personality, because your people who are close to you, they know what you act like, they know who you are. So if you are writing something that doesn't look like it's about you, then they can say, hey, like, this doesn't seem like it's you. You can do better. Write something that represents yourself better. Number 14, if someone tells you to apply to a school, don't brush them off. Look up the school, research the school, decide if you want to apply, because you never know. That school actually may be a great fit for you, but you may have heard of this school in the past and you're like, I don't want to apply to that school. That school doesn't seem good. But there are so many schools that people told me to apply to that I applied to because they told me to, and I ended up really liking, like, just on my journey of my college application process journey, I really liked learning about the schools, and I decided, wow, these schools would be really great for me to apply to. So even if you're like 100% sure that you don't want to apply to that school, just look into it. Look at what majors they have. Look at the feeling of the school. Watch YouTube videos, and you may decide that you like the school, and you may end up going to that school. I know people who ended up going to schools because people told them about it, and they ended up really liking it. Number 15 is don't be lazy. Apply to a school even if it has a million essays for you to write. If you want to go to that school, write those essays and make sure that they're good essays. don't make them bad essays. Don't not look over them. Try your best, because there's no point in writing 15 essays for a school that you're not going to look over, that you're not going to make sure are as nice as possible, and then you just end up getting denied because you didn't even try. What was the point in the first place? And also apply to schools that have separate applications. Even if you're like, I don't want to fill out a separate application. Like schools like University of Hawaii at Manoa, which I applied to, had a separate application from the Common App. So you have to enter your parental information, your general information, and your essay separately. You have to submit a whole nother application just for that school. The same thing with like UCLA and Georgetown. I didn't apply to UCLA and Georgetown because they had separate applications on their own websites, which I wish that I would have applied. Because now I wonder, would I have gotten in? Yeah, just apply to schools, even if they have separate applications. Don't be lazy, because this is just a small, like 1 year period in your life that can affect the rest of your life. So don't be lazy, because you never know. You may get in and you may really like the school. Number 16, know that submitting your college application is not the end of your application process. I know that may seem confusing, but when you submit your college application for any school, like you submit them independently through the Common App. But there's so much more work that you have to do. Each school, almost every school, will make you create an applicant portal, which is a login for the school. And they'll have a checklist on that site, and the school will have you do extra things. Like each school will have you do different things. A lot of schools, even if you submitted your FAFSA, your financial aid to the government, they'll make you verify your FAFSA, and they'll make you do extra documents to verify that, which takes a long time. And then they'll make you do a whole bunch of extra things. They'll make you apply for financial aid, and they'll just make you do so many other things. And then they'll have scholarships that you can apply through the university. So that's just the beginning. Finishing the application is just the beginning. There's so much other stuff that you have to do afterwards. So if you're applying to 20, 30 schools, like I applied to like 20 schools. So if you're applying to 20, 30 schools, I'm not telling you not to do that. If you want to do that, do that. But just know beforehand that there's a lot of work that you have to do afterwards. It doesn't just end at when you turn in the application. So number 17, check your application checklist and be on top of it. The application checklist, which I just talked about, it'll be in your applicant portal, which you create for each school. And be on top of the application checklist, because there'll be stuff that's not finished that you'll think will be finished, and you need to look at each one for each individual school that you apply to. For each, like all 20 schools, you need to log in and see what you're missing. Because I know someone who, they really wanted to go to this school. They didn't check their application checklist. They go to decision day to check if they got in. You've been denied. You have an incomplete application. Therefore, we could not review your application. It's not a school's responsibility to email you and tell you if your application isn't finished. Like some schools would do that. A lot of schools do that for me, but that's not their responsibility. Some schools don't care diddly swat. Like they don't care if you actually finish the application. Like they're not going to let you know that you didn't finish, and they won't care. They just won't review your application, and they won't tell you. Number 18, don't let acceptance rate fool you. I think of University of Michigan, which has historically for the past years, I think has had a 20-something% acceptance rate, which for some people is really, really easy. If you're a 1 in a million applicant, that should be really easy. False. You're not guaranteed to get into any school. There are people who get into Harvard and Stanford and Princeton and Yale, but they get denied from University of Michigan. Why is that? Because some schools, they know all of these really, really talented, gifted individuals are applying, but they're like, Dylan has a 1560 on his SAT. He's class president. He's captain of the soccer team. And they see all of these accomplishments, and they see how smart this person is, and they're like, this person is going to go to Princeton or Yale instead. They're not going to go to our school. They're going to deny our school when we give them their acceptance. So in order to make our acceptance rate look low, we're going to deny Dylan. Even though he's talented and he's good enough to get in, we're going to deny him because we want to keep our acceptance rate low to make us look very prestigious. So that's why I say with safety schools, 20% is not a safety school. 50% and above, I think that's pretty much ideal, but that's just my advice. And also, let me dig a little deeper. Like, I know people who've had 1400s, 1500s on their SATs, and they got denied from virtually every school. So, like, literally, you need to apply to not just schools that are matches for you. Even if you're really smart, it doesn't matter. Number 19, if you're an exceptional athlete, become familiar with the recruiting process. Even if you don't think you want to play sports in college, even if you're 100% sure that you don't want to play sports in college, be familiar with the process. That doesn't mean email coaches or contact schools. Obviously, if you're sure that you don't want to do sports in college, don't be contacting the schools. But if you're a good athlete, know what the process is like and know what athletes need to do in order to get recruited or to play sports at colleges, because you may decide at the end of the process that it turns out that you want to play sports in college. Trust me, this happens to a lot of athletes. They decide they want to play sports in college, but it's too late. So know what the process is like beforehand for in case you change your mind. Trust me. Number 20, apply to schools with big endowments. What are endowments? An endowment is how much money the school has. Harvard has the biggest endowment of any university in the United States, I believe. They have billions and billions and billions of dollars which they are sitting upon. These schools which have a lot of money that they're sitting on, they give a lot of financial aid to their students. A school that does not have a lot of money, and you may think millions of dollars is a lot of money, but that's not necessarily a lot of money. If a school has 30,000 kids, but they have $20 million, that's not a lot of money. You want to make sure that you are applying to some schools that have a lot of money, because some schools may give you really bad financial aid, and those schools with big endowments that may end up accepting you may give you almost like a full ride. So they have so much money that they're so generous with it. So apply to schools with big endowments. Number 21, apply to your local community college, because you never know what will happen. Your parents could fall sick right before you're about to leave for college, and you may have to end up going to community college. You never know. A whole nother global pandemic could sweep the nation, can sweep the world. You don't know what's going to happen. And the thing is, you also don't know how much financial aid you're going to get when applying, because you find out your financial aid after you're accepted into the school. So some schools, like, you may get no good financial aid offers from any school that you apply to, and you may decide, oh, I have to go to community college. But you have to apply to community college. So apply to community college when you're applying to all your other universities and colleges, because the worst thing that could happen is you have no school to go to and you have to wait until the next semester to do community college because you applied too late. And there's no such thing as being too smart for community college. If you want an education, apply to community college, because you never know if you're going to need to go there. Number 22, don't obsess over the process and continue watching college decision reaction videos over and over and becoming depressed because you don't think you're smart enough. Because I know I made a college decision reaction video and I had to do a lot of thinking whether or not I wanted to make it, because I thought it could be kind of toxic, but I did it to help people, and I let people know beforehand that this isn't to depress people or to make myself seem better than others. If you watch these videos over and over, you can become depressed or think you're not worth it, or just watch people explaining their high school stats. Like, know that you're important and that you have your own strengths that you can bring to a school. And I would say my last overall general tip is that schools accept people who they want. Just because you have a 1580 on your SAT does not mean that a school wants you. Does not mean that a school thinks that you as an individual can contribute to the school. If a school doesn't think that you can give them what they want, they're not going to accept you. And if they think that you're not going to be comfortable there, they also might not accept you. So don't think because you got denied from a school that you're not smart. That's not true. If you have a really low GPA and you got denied from Harvard, like, don't be upset and think, oh, I'm not worth it. Like, no, you just weren't necessarily qualified for that role yet. So, hey, if you don't get into the school of your dreams, you can always apply next year. Nothing's stopping you. That's it for this video, guys. I hope these tips helped. Ask questions below about the college application process, and hopefully I can make a Q&A where I answer the questions if I get enough questions. So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed.